This is Real Deal Sports Talk with KP.
Sincerely yours.
July 30th, 2018.
Sincerely
Yo,
yours.
dear Reverend, I can't believe you damn near 7. I wrote this letter to tell you that you a real blessing. And I don't even believe in heaven, with the exception, if it's really real, then no question that you would be the essence. You the best thing that happened since I met your mama. Nothing makes me happier than the honor of being your father. Ever since Shatana laid up in the labor room, I can't believe how much a new baby could really change a dude. You was a planned birth, walk around with diaper bags like a man purse. I was prouder than any man on earth. Your first birthday, time flies in the worst way, cause just the other day you was trying to climb out the learning cage. Now you running and jumping, laughing with so much joy, no greater satisfaction than when you holding your baby boy. Star Wars, dinosaurs, all the latest toys, I give it to you all, anything you could ever ask me for. I send a kite to the loved ones within my life, cause you're the inspiration for which I write. Sincerely yours. To my dogs who rep the squad from day one, we saying thanks, bruh, for embracing love. Sincerely yours. To all the fans who keep records spinning like ceiling fans and giving us a chance, you're extended fans. Sincerely yours. When I'm falling, my physical form is dead and gone, you can play this song in memory of. Sincerely yours.
Dear Mom, I just like to thank you for being strong. You could have gave up, but you just kept pressing on. Lost most of your vision, but I wanted you to see deep down inside what you really mean to me. Bend but don't break, don't ever get it confused. The survivor of the physically and mentally abused. We are all God's children, but you are like an angel. My whole being formed in your womb, and I'm thankful.
Thank you.
Long, hard hours on the grind in a bus, but you always found time to take care of all of us. I'm not rich with money, I'm wealthy, because you taught us always exercise and eat healthy. No father around, so I should have been a fool, but instead got a full ride scholarship to school. Always tried your best, never gave us bad advice. In the dictionary, see your picture next to sacrifice. I love you.
I send a kite to the loved ones within my life, cause you're the inspiration for which I write. Sincerely yours.
And welcome into Real Deal Sports Talk with KP. How's everybody doing today? It's Monday, beginning of the week. Some people don't like it. Some people say let's have one more day on the weekend. I say let's get to it. Okay, it's Monday. We got stuff to talk about. There's sports news breaking. But today we got our NFC South predictions. We're going to get to some other sports stories that are out there. Some things that have been dropped today, reported on. Mostly football related. We'll see how much we can get to, but we're going to focus on the NFC South predictions for today's show. One thing do want to point out, third annual KP Showdown, NFL Fantasy Football League for Real Deal Sports Talk with KP. It is going down. You can go to the link on the website, realdealsportstalkwithkp.com. There you'll find our league ID and the league password, so you can join up. Spots are limited, so if you are interested, get in now. You can find all that information on the website. League ID is 6164249, and our league password is OnePride, all capitalized. So, all right, let's get into a couple quick stories, a couple little things like the Hall of Fame game on Thursday. I don't know how little that is for some of y'all. For me, it's like, okay, the juices are flowing. We're ready to start pounding. The Ravens and the Bears are going to get going. For an NFC North fan and a Lions fan, I get to check out some of the Bears, see what they're looking like this year in the new system under the new regime. For the Ravens, we're going to get to see, Joe Flacco. We're hearing this is the best training camp of his career. We're going to have the Lamar Jackson show for probably a good 2 quarters in this game. It's going to be fun. I'm excited to watch it. Then the Hall of Fame ceremony is Saturday, August 4th. Game is Thursday night, August 2nd. So, got that to look forward to. Jets fans, you got Sam Darnold to look forward to. Another rookie signing his guaranteed money deal. He's getting a little over $30 million as the third pick in this year's draft. Guaranteed money. Showed up just in time for practice today. Isn't that good timing? Ndamukong Suh, he is now part of the Los Angeles Rams, where they already have one of, if not the best, interior defensive lineman in the league in Aaron Donald. And Suh says he deserves more than what he got when he signed with Miami a few years back on that $114 million, $60 million guaranteed, $80 million guaranteed contract that he got. Donald apparently is looking for somewhere between 17 and 20 million. I could see that. You look at his production, you look at the way he changes a game, and now you're going to put a player like Sue next to him, which Detroit fans, trust me, we are all killing ourselves that this didn't happen. No offense to Eric Ebron, you just weren't better than Aaron Donald. So, that being said, we're going to get to see these two wreck shop this year. It's going to be fun to watch, see what Wade Phillips can do with them, around them, and I hope he gets into camp soon, because he's a great talent, a great player, and he deserves to get paid entering his 5th year of his rookie deal, making just over $6 million this year. That's about a third of probably what he's worth in today's market. Something that's holding up other contracts around the league, especially with some rookies. Some people are getting this wording put into their contract, is regarding the helmet rule and the lowering of the helmet, and what could happen if you are flagged for that, if you are suspended for that. Can they repeal and take guaranteed money back? So now agents and players are having to get this worded in there so that their players can retain their money, because teams are looking at it going, okay, here's a way we can get money back if they're breaking this key rule, this safety rule. We can recoup funds and also make it look like we're taking it serious in the public's eye. So helmet rules, holding up contracts. Raekwon Smith with the Bears, he's not in camp. He's not going to be playing Thursday because they are still trying to get the wording figured out for that specific holdup. So we'll have to see how that affects other contracts moving forward. It's an interesting aspect that not a lot of us have thought about for sure. How, we thought how this could affect a game, how this could affect maybe a suspension here or there. But I personally, and I'm sure many of you, hadn't really thought about how this can affect contracts and the wording in the contracts, and how teams and players are going to have to deal with this so that it's all on the up and up, so that players aren't getting taken advantage of and teams aren't coming back and going, okay, now we can recoup this percentage or this amount of your guaranteed money or your signing bonus because you were suspended for this infraction. That is going to be completely objective, and it's kind of a BS rule to put in when there's no concrete way you can have every official call it the same way. So it's definitely going to be something interesting moving forward. Scott Frost, new head coach of the Nebraska Cornhuskers, former Cornhusker great. He's having his house done in Lincoln, and he was robbed of $165,000 in memorabilia. While his house was being done, Captain Danny Retnan on Monday said that burglars took 2 Nebraska championship rings, 10 Oregon rings, 2 UCF rings, and 5 pairs of Jordans, totaling $165,000. Now, when these people are found, because Scott is a Cornhusker great, because he is the new coach, because a lot of us believe Scott is going to return Nebraska to the great heights that we're used to seeing Nebraska play at, return the black shirts to the defensive dominance, return scoring to that offense. I have a feeling that when this person's found in Lincoln, that they're going to be in quite some trouble. It's going to be hard to get rid of those rings. It's going to be hard to keep it quiet that you have all of those rings. The Jordans you might be able to get away with, but 12 rings, 14 rings? Come on now. That person is a fool, and when they realize what they did and other people around them now realize, they're doomed. You're in Nebraska. He's a Nebraska great. He's the Nebraska head coach. You're going to be lucky not to make it out a bloody pulp. Ridiculous. Silliness. All right, NFC South prediction time. Let's get to it. We're 10 minutes into the show. Let's talk about the 2017 standings for the NFC South. NFC South. New Orleans took the division last year at 11-5. Same record as the Panthers, but they had a better division record at 4-2 in the division. So they get the tiebreaker there, and they win the NFC South. Carolina also had 11-5. The Falcons 10-6, and Tampa Bay at 5-11. Competitive division all in all, except for Tampa Bay. Not sure that we'll see much different results as far as the competitive aspect this year, but you never know. There could be something that we're not seeing quite yet. Tampa Bay has some pieces that I like for sure. As far as their NFL rankings on offense, if you look at these teams last year, Atlanta was 8, Tampa Bay was 9, so there's some signs there that they had something going for them. And then Carolina at 19. Who am I forgetting? Carolina, Atlanta, the Saints, and the Falcons. Did I say everybody? That's everybody. Yeah, New Orleans was 2. That's the team I couldn't find. They were too high for me to read. On the defensive side of the ball, however, this division was a little different. Carolina was the top-ranked team with the 7th-ranked defense. Atlanta came in at 9. That one kind of surprised me because I didn't really like Atlanta's defense that much at all last year. So to see that they were in the top 10, a little surprising. New Orleans was at 17, and then Tampa Bay came in dead last. That's how bad your defense has to be for you to have a top-ranked offense and have the dead last-ranked defense. Oh, I'm sorry, Tampa Bay fans. I don't mean to poke fun. NFC South, for years now, we've seen the team that's been at the bottom rise to the top. We've seen a different division winner almost every year for the last decade. But we have also seen the Panthers, the Falcons, and the Saints basically dominate in that same time frame. Tampa Bay, they've, in my opinion, blown some opportunities over the past few years. Last year, I think that defense should have been much better than it was. They have playmakers at the linebacker level. They have playmakers on the front line. The secondary let them down. Really, the whole defense let them down. The scheme let them down. Injuries, were a big problem. McCoy was hurt. So you come into this season, you add some pieces. You're like, okay, we feel we might be able to do something. But then you're still looking at the Falcons. You're still looking at the Saints. You're still looking at the Panthers, who had, a pretty good offseason. Not great, but pretty good. As far as, people who left the team or joined the team via free agency. They re-signed their kicker. They were able to re-sign Julius Peppers, which I think is still key, even though it's going to, he's 16 years in. He's still good for between 8 and 15 sacks. He's still a great leader. He's still a great competitor. He's an all-time franchise great. As far as guys they brought in, Dontari Poe should add something to that defense. They add Jeremiah Searles. They add Zach Banner. Okay, well, great. The depth pieces, Carolina's offensive line was a little rough last year, so they need some competition as far as that goes with some of the guys they have in the running back stall. And they bring over Jarius Wright at receiver. Not too impressive of a guy. I mean, throw him in there. Let's see what he can do. Guys that they lost, Kurt Coleman at free safety. He moves on to division rival New Orleans. Ed Dixon, the tight end, one of Cam Newton's big targets after guys went down last year. He goes on to Seattle. Star Latulier, he signs with Buffalo. Andrew Norwell, he signs with Jacksonville. So there's a guard that they're missing. Jonathan Stewart goes on to the Giants. So they lost a lot of key guys, a lot of veterans, guys that were picking up some slack. Derek Anderson, Charles Johnson, and Silatui are still unsigned free agents. So kind of looks like they're rebuilding a little bit. But then you look at who they drafted based on who they lost and some of the needs that they had. And it's like, okay, let's see if we can figure out what the Panthers are thinking, right? They bring in a DJ Moore, that receiver. Okay, another quick kind of scat Samuel type guy. Okay. Dante Jackson, cornerback out of LSU, he's going to compete for a starting spot. Rashawn Golden, he's probably going to compete for a starting spot. They bring in, there's your tight end, Ian Thomas. So you see that Marquise Hayes, Charles Johnson spot on the edge. They're filling spots with youth. I like that. And then they go and get Kendrick Norton, the defensive tackle, with their last pick. Probably doesn't make the team, but I like how Carolina is sneakily staying good. They're staying 11-5, 10-6, 9-7, maybe a little better good, while building a younger core now. Some of their veterans are gone. You keep a guy like Julius Peppers. Cam is now well into his career, still in his prime, but you're building young team around these guys. On the coaching staff, I like what they're doing with their coaching staff. Ron Rivera's done a great job as the head coach of the Panthers. I'd like to see him take more risks. I think maybe that's what he's doing by bringing in a Norv Turner to be the offensive coordinator. And I expect a lot from Norv Turner with Christian McCaffrey. I'm a big Christian McCaffrey fan. I'm a big Norv Turner fan as a coordinator. I think that's going to be a great mix. Eric Washington on the defensive coordinator, and then Chase Blackburn as the special teams coordinator. This is a team that's built a lot of young talent. It's kind of an impressive roster that they have. Like they talked about, I really like Christian McCaffrey. They bring over a CJ Anderson. He's going to help in that backfield and kind of take that Jonathan Stewart role. Expect Samuel to be healthy. You bring in more from the draft. Now you have an explosive offense. You have Norv Turner. You have a defense that performed well last year. You bring back a Julius Peppers. You bring in the corner from LSU to go and compete with the guys that were there last year that are going to gain more experience, that were young. Thomas Davis, he's going to be out for a little while. You still have Luke Kuechly, who's the best interior linebacker in football. This is a good team. I see this Carolina Panther team taking one step back from last year, not 11-5. I see them going 10-6 this year. Key games for them, as I see it, really because they have the early bye week, are all going to be late in the season. I think their game against the Lions is going to be key because those could be two teams that are looking to vie for a wild card berth. And then late in the season, when you have the Saints twice in December in a 3-week span, you have to get one of those. That is where the division is going to be won. And I think the one at home on December 17th, you have to win if you're the Carolina Panthers. So that win second half of the season against the Lions, because that could come down to those two teams for a playoff berth, and you have to get one of those games against the Saints in December. Speaking of the Saints, they still have Drew Brees. They still have Kamara. They still have Michael Thomas. They're going to produce on what they did last year. They bring George Johnson back on that defense, which they have a great defense there. Lattimore and what those guys have been able to do on the defensive side of the ball really impressed me last year quite a bit. I wish I had their roster in front of me right now. They bring in a Jermon Bushrod to play some offensive line. Like I said, they brought in Kurt Coleman. Demario Davis, inside linebacker, is going to give them some depth. Patrick Robinson comes over from Philadelphia, comes back from Philadelphia. Tom Savage comes in as a backup quarterback role. They lose Raphael Bush. I'm not high on him. Chase Daniel leaves to Chicago. He hasn't played but, 7 snaps in his career, so whatever. Jonathan Freeney, he goes over to Detroit. And Kelemete goes to Houston. Then they have a few guys that are out there that are unsigned. If they brought any of them back in, I would think maybe Kuhn, even though he's getting up there. Willie Snead, maybe. He was kind of going well with Breeze there at the beginning of last year. And then Kenny Vicario, I'm kind of surprised they haven't brought him back. Or Larry Warford. I mean, Larry Warford started his career hot in Detroit and just kind of, disappeared a little bit. So they still have their high-powered offense. They still have Cam Jordan and Lattimore and what those guys were able to get going on the defensive side of the ball last year. It'd be nice if Vicario was back there on the back end. They add a Marcus Davenport through the draft, defensive end. He's going to probably primarily be used as a pass rusher. Their rookie receiver, Traquan Smith, you've already seen highlights out of him from training camp. Over the shoulder, one-handed, on the sideline. This is a team that knows how to draft for their team. Rick Leonard, offensive tackle out of Florida State. There's, your swing tackle, another young piece who's going to be there. I liked their draft quite a bit. They filled needs, they got depth, and it feels not quite as good of a draft as last year with all the Pro Bowlers they had as rookies, but a good draft nonetheless. Sean Payton, he's done a great job as a Saints coach. I honestly thought he was on his way out of New Orleans, and he might be. As soon as Drew Brees is gone, you might see the departure of Sean Payton as well. Offensive coordinator Pete Carmichael, he's probably more of a sounding board than anything, let's be honest. Assistant head coach Dan Campbell, he's really come on as a former tight end in the league. We saw what he was able to do with the rallying cry as he got his chance there with the Dolphins. And he's growing in coaching circles. Players like him quite a bit. Joel Thomas, the running back coach. On the defensive side, Dennis Allen, he's had his success throughout the years. He's really done a good job. And again, that defense last year was something that a lot of us didn't expect. Aaron Glenn working with their secondary, that's going to be huge. Mike Nolan, former defensive coordinator, working with the linebackers. They have a lot of coaching talent there in New Orleans. Great coaching staff. I like their coaching staff quite a bit. I have this team going 9-7. I know that's a big step back from the 11-5, but you play the first place schedule this year. You have a lot of talent, but you have a schedule that you're going to have to go out and prove it. Not too rough of a first half of the season. Couple division games at the Giants, against Washington. Cleveland could be a trap game in the second game of the season. Early bye week, relatively, week 6. But in the second half of the season, you have the Ravens, the Vikings, the Rams, the Eagles, the Falcons, at Dallas, which is tough to play at, and the Panthers, again, twice in December. So you have to win the home game against the Panthers. In between the Panthers, you have the Steelers. I mean, that's a 3-game stretch. Are you kidding me? In December, when it's coming down to the playoff time, do you see why I got them at 9-7 just with those 3 games right there? If you're coming in at 9-4 or you're at 8-5, your whole season is going to come down to those last 3 games if you're the Saints. So key games for them, you have to get one against the Panthers. You need to beat either the Eagles or the Falcons in week 11 and 12. The Rams and the Vikings, you need to split those 2 games. It's a tough schedule for the Saints. Yes, they're very talented, but 9-7 is where I got them sitting right now. The Falcons, we'll see. Can they get Julio happy? Can they get him in camp? Is this second year in this offensive system going to improve on things? Is the defense going to take the next step forward? They re-signed their kicker. They re-signed Leon McFadden, the defensive back. They add Justin Bethel to the defensive backfield rotation. They bring in a tight end that they lost their other tight end to Detroit. They lost Adrian Claiborne to New England. That's going to be hard to replace. They lose Taylor Gabriel, that third quick receiver, to Chicago. Poe goes over to Carolina in the district, and Tolilolo goes over to Detroit. So pieces to replace. guys that they have sitting out there, they really probably aren't going to re-sign any of them unless it just comes down to them to camp and they need, better players. Upshaw's still out there, Witherspoon, guys like that. But not a lot of movement as far as free agents, departures, and arrivals that are like, ooh, let's get excited about that. But it does have you worried that Julio Jones is not signed. On the draft side, okay, well, you bring in a Calvin Ridley. That's great. Add him to Mohamed Sanu, add him to Julio Jones, and have a triple wide receiver threat that is almost unguardable. Isaiah Oliver, the cornerback out of Colorado, great 2 picks there for their first 2. Sanat, the defensive tackle out of South Florida. It's like they knew where they needed to draft, what they needed depth and help in, and they attacked those areas. Ito Smith, the running back out of Southern Mississippi, I'm not really sure why they went that route unless they're planning on letting Tevin Coleman go eventually. Russell Gage, the wide receiver out of LSU, and then Foy Olukun, the linebacker out of Yale. Those last 2 picks might not see a lot out of them this year or at all, really. But good draft as far as their first few picks go. Now, Dan Quinn's got a lot on his plate right now. He's a young head coach. He was a great defensive coordinator. But there's things that he's learning about the other side of the ball, especially losing his Kyle Shanahan, Steve Sarkisian trying to figure it out. Marcon Manuel's the defensive coordinator, kind of doing what Dan Quinn's system is, working with Raheem Morris, I'm sure, who's the assistant head coach and has worked as a head coach in this league. But he's working with the offensive side of the ball right now. Other guys on their roster, I like Bryant Young as the defensive line coach. That's Bryant Young was a good player. I like Bernie Parmalee working with the running backs. Greg Knapp is a good quarterback coach. So, again, pieces in place. Don't all have to do it yourself. Let's pull from the collective and be a complete team. I have this team going 9-7. I think they have some troubles. I don't really have faith in Sarkisian as an offensive coordinator. Key games for them. Bye week, week 8. They have a rough start at Philadelphia, home against the Panthers, home against the Saints. They can't start the season 0-3. If they start the season 0-3, 9-7, definitely the best that they can hope for. But they need to win one of those for sure. I would say you got to get the 2 home games early against the division. You really want to get at least one of those home games against the division. At the Steelers, week 5. Second half of the season, division games to end. I'm probably re-looking at their schedule. Should have gotten them more at like the 10-6 range, because really after week 8, there's not a lot of key games on their schedule. You'd like them to split at least the Packers and the Cardinals going into the last 2 games of the season at Carolina and at Tampa Bay. So maybe I'll just reset that. I'm going to put them at 10-6 on the season instead of 9-7. On second thought, on looking at the schedule again. And then there's Tampa Bay in the division. We all know what's going on with Jameis Winston right now. They lost some guys. Mike Evans is bouncing back from injury. Gerald McCoy is going to bounce back from injury. We're expecting more from this team than what we saw last year. Cameron Brate, we're expecting more from him. Ryan Fitzpatrick, I like him as the backup. We'll probably see him early on in the season until this situation with Jameis Winston is taken care of. Brent Grimes, he's getting up there in years, but he's going to add depth and veteran leadership to that cornerback room. So I like that they brought him back. Bo Allen, I like the signing of Bo Allen. He is a tough-nosed kid coming from Philadelphia. Vinny Curry, he comes over from Philadelphia at the defensive end. So they've kind of, gone, okay, where's our strength? Defensive line. We got Gerald McCoy. Let's build around him. Let's get him some pieces around him so he can't be double and triple teamed on every play. So what do? They bring in a pass rusher. They bring in a defensive tackle. They also got another defensive tackle, Vita Vea, in the draft. They bring in a Ryan Jensen to help on that offensive line. He may play center. You might see him at some guard. And then they bring in a Minch Unrein, who isn't a big star, but he's a solid rotational backup guy. They lose Chris Baker at defensive tackle. Doug Martin moves on to the Raiders and might not even make that team. Clinton McDonald moves on. Robert Ayers is still sitting out there. Mike Evans hasn't been re-signed yet. I thought Mike Evans had been re-signed. Mike Evans is still sitting out there, apparently, according to NFL.com. Another running back, Charles Sims, is out there, and they haven't re-signed and probably won't re-sign TJ Ward at this point. So, moving into their draft, how else could they improve this team that was 5-11 last year? They have some areas. They're clearly a fractured team. They're clearly got some maturity issues. Vita Vea, let's add him to that defensive rotation. Put him next to a Gerald McCoy. Let him learn. Let him help. Let him spell. I like that. Bring in the running back Ronald Jones in the second round and add something to that backfield, a pass-catching dynamic element that they didn't have. Bring in a couple cornerbacks. Bring in a guard. I like Carlton Davis, the corner out of Auburn, in the second round. Good pickup. MJ Stewart, corner North Carolina, in the second round. 2 corners in the second round out of their 3 second-round picks. So this is a team that they're looking at where they were weak. They brought some young guys. Brent Grimes helped those guys learn the NFL game, right? And their coaches are learning as they go too. Your franchise quarterback sitting there, and he's in trouble now. Dirk Corder, you came in. People thought you were going to be the offensive guy that made it work for this team. It didn't so much blossom into that quite yet. There was definitely signs. You still have Deshaun Jackson. Mike Evans is going to be on the field. Mike Smith, your defensive coordinator, he's worked in the division as a head coach before with the Falcons. And I think he's got the pieces now with some of the young guys and some of the defensive guys they brought over on that front line to help the linebackers that they have fly around a little more. And it's going to be interesting what Tampa Bay is able to build there. I like their defensive line coach, Princeton Buckner. He played good defensive line in the division. Other coaches, solid coaching staff, but Princeton Buckner is probably the guy who sticks out the most to me. Paul Spicer, young in his coaching career, but he's helping out on the defensive line. I like Chad Wade, their strength coach. So, it's the Bucs. I feel like they're the team that is just underachieving, has the talent, but isn't getting it done. So I don't have them going as bad as 5-11 this year. I think they'll do a little better. I have them at 7-9. Key games for them, pretty much in the division. You're going to have to try and split the division. You have a rough start to the year at the Saints, home against Philly, home against the Steelers. So you want to split Pennsylvania for sure, right? You want to go at least 3-3 in the division. Out of the Cowboys and the Giants, you want to win one of those 2 games. And, then you go and win the winnable games. You don't leave something out on the table. Let's do one more sports debate, and then we'll talk about how great LeBron James is once again. I saw a thing this week on Facebook, I believe, about who was the better athlete, Bo Jackson or Deion Sanders. Who's the better athlete? And a lot of people are going to pick Deion, right? He hit a home run and scored a touchdown in the same week. He won a Super Bowl, and won a World Series. He played professional baseball and professional football. True. He was great at basketball as well. Don't forget that. Deion was. But Bo Jackson was something else. Okay? Bo played football. Bo played baseball. Bo was in track and field. But where Deion was a great athlete, and we all saw greatness, and it was like, wow, look how fast he is. Look how, good he is. Look at the bravado. Look at the character. Bo was just like a freak. So I wanted to see what the difference in them was. Okay, fastest reported time for Bo was a 4.13 in the 40. Fastest reported time that I could find for Deion was a 4.23 in the 40. Both of them came in at 6'1". Bo weighed 230 pounds playing weight. Deion weighed 198 pounds playing weight. So that caught me a little bit too. I thought Bo was, bigger. Something to show in, just muscle size and the pads that he wore in football. Both of them 3-sport athletes in high school. 2 sports athletes through the pros. We don't know if Bo would have won a World Series or a Super Bowl. His career was cut short. He didn't play in the NFL right away because he didn't want to play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then with the hip injury, he made a comeback. He played for the White Sox. He tried to come back and play baseball as the less physical sport that was going to give him the best chance with that fake hip to play again. But it wasn't in the cards. Now, if it was, who knows? So I have to take that out of the account because Deion didn't win those by himself. The only thing he did by himself was score a touchdown and hit the home run. The other things are team accomplishments. So who's the better athlete? Well, Bo's bigger, he was stronger, and he might have been faster, which is unbelievable because Deion could burn. So in my opinion, who's a better athlete, Bo or Deion? I'm taking Bo. Bo knows, right? That's the commercial. Bo knows. Deion was a spectacle. Deion was an amazing athlete. Deion could play baseball, center field. He could hit. He didn't really hit for power, but he could hit home runs. Bo hit for a lot of power. He had played the same center field that Deion did. His freakish strength when breaking a baseball bat was something to be seen. We all can remember the iconic photo of him with the shoulder pads on and the bat over his shoulders. He was just something else. It would have been great to see him continue to play. If there was a player I could bring back to see play more, it would probably be Bo Jackson. Even as a Lions fan, where Barry retired early, Bo was something to watch. Watching him run over people, through people, around people, past people, away from people. He was a special combination, and he was there for, I guess, just the right amount of time for all of us to enjoy and appreciate. And I want to end the show today on something that's not football related, but something that I'm still really impressed with, and that is LeBron James and his Promise Academy. We all know that he has put millions, tens of millions of his own money aside to send kids to college from Akron. He has started his own school in the city. It's an experiment basically to try and help improve the educational opportunities and the opportunities in life for these kids. And that school opened today. It is an amazing building. It's an amazing opportunity. The third graders read the promise for the first time today. He tweeted out that, he had the nervous butterflies in his stomach coming into the first day of school again. And it's just cool, man. To me, that's what separates him as the greatest of all time, or one of the greatest of all time when it comes to the debate between him and Jordan, is the stuff that he did off the floor, is doing off the floor, that is affecting the community way more than selling a brand of shoes and a brand of clothing and endorsement deals. So congratulations to you. You are the king of Akron. Hopefully the haters can let you be in LA as you continue your greatness. I'm proud of what you're doing. It's great to see when those fortunate give back the way you are, LeBron. So until next time, y'all know how we do. Just be real.
I've been through it, I'm proving that I'm battle tested. Since adolescence, you witnessing what is manifested. This alliance, a combination of rhyme and shines. Rocking our hypothesis, actualizing the highest science. Table of elements occupying my molecules. High off the chronic, we're harmonizing my chronicles. Running shit since Kid and Play did the running man. Black man scramble on land like Randall Cunningham. From the jump in the introduction was so impressive. Flow aggressive, but always calm, cool, collected. Hater proof, can't extinguish when I blaze the boot. Far sharp as razor edge claws on a saber tooth. Save the youth like a dedicated educator. Rising to the top and I ain't even take the escalator. Never in the dark when you got the light to shine through it. Take the beat and fine tune it when we put the rhyme to it.
That's right. Yo. This rap is pathetic, embarrassing. Niggas is effortless, I'm ruffling feathers. Cause I'm spitting better than any dude in the new era. Incredible rhymes, spitting articulate, sauce dripping thick with the splash etiquette. I'm way better than niggas wish they could ever get. At this point in time, I felt it was evident. The most clever with words ever for lyrics. I'm setting the precedent. It's clearly a different level when Kellen spit the most benevolence. 90% intelligence, 10 is eloquence. Rhyming is a science, I'm just combining the elements. My literary endeavors deserve the highest merits. When it comes to writing, there's no one near 'em, there's no comparisons. All these rappers will feel disparaged, cause it's apparent that the gap in town is pretty glaring. Just check the narrative. Yeah, and there it is.